Most people think Ramadan is about time, 30 days, 30 fasts, a countdown on the calendar. But what if Ramadan was never really about time at all? What if it's about attention? Because every year, millions of people reach Ramadan and yet leave it unchanged. Same habits, same distractions, same inner conflicts. The month passes, but the person stays the same. This video is not about how to maximize rewards or how many rakats you should pray. It's about something deeper and more uncomfortable. Why Ramadan doesn't transform you unless your life is already moving in the right direction. Why some people feel Ramadan as light and others feel it as pressure. Why hunger is not the hardest part, but inner resistance is. And why the real preparation for Ramadan doesn't start in Ramadan at all. So the real question isn't, are you ready for Ramadan? It's, what has been quietly training your soul all year? And what will Ramadan actually reveal about you?
Look at your year honestly. Not your intentions, not your du'as, your patterns. Because intentions live in the mind, patterns live in the body. Patterns are what you do when no one is watching, when you're tired, when you're bored, when you're emotionally overloaded and just want to feel something else. What owns your focus when you wake up? Before the world asks anything from you, what do you reach for first? What fills the silence in your head? When there's no conversation, no notifications, no background noise, what thoughts automatically take the stage? What do you escape into when life feels heavy? Not what you should do, what you actually do. Scrolling, sleeping, fantasizing, overworking, numbing, arguing, distracting. These are not random habits. They are coping mechanisms. They reveal where your heart goes for relief. That is your real religion, not in belief, but in practice. Because religion is not only what you worship, it's what you turn to when you feel powerless, what you trust to regulate your emotions, what you rely on to make life feel bearable. Ramadan doesn't replace those patterns, it exposes them. It takes away your usual escapes and shows you what's underneath them. If your mind is trained on distraction, Ramadan feels long. Every hour feels slow. Every fast feels heavy. You're constantly waiting for the next break from yourself. If your heart is trained on awareness, Ramadan feels short. Days pass quietly. Worship feels natural. You're not trying to fill time. You're finally inhabiting it. Same month, different inner world. And the difference was never the calendar. It was the direction your attention had been flowing all year.
Here's the uncomfortable truth. You don't rise to the level of Ramadan. You fall to the level of your training. Not your hopes, not your plans, not your emotional speeches about how this year will be different. Training is what your nervous system is already used to, what your mind defaults to under pressure, what your heart does when discipline runs out. Just like the body. You can't run a marathon because the race started. The body doesn't respond to events. It responds to repetition. It runs because of the mornings no one saw, the days you trained when motivation was low, the habits that were boring, quiet, and invisible. Spiritual life works the same way. Your soul has muscle memory too. It remembers what it practices. It resists what it rarely touches. If prayer is rushed now, it will be rushed then. The clock doesn't suddenly disappear in Ramadan. Your relationship with time doesn't magically heal. If Quran feels distant now, it won't suddenly feel intimate later. Words don't become alive just because the month changed. Intimacy comes from familiarity, not occasion. If your tongue is careless now, fasting won't make it wise. Hunger doesn't create character. It reveals it. Ramadan doesn't create new habits. It removes the filters. It takes away comfort, distraction, routine, and excuse, and shows you the raw version of your inner world. Whatever has been quietly shaping you all year becomes louder in Ramadan. Discipline becomes deeper. Neglect becomes heavier. Awareness becomes clarity. Distraction becomes suffocation. Ramadan doesn't make you better or worse. It makes you more honest about who you already are. This is why the early Muslims didn't treat Ramadan like an event, not something you wait for, not something you react to. They treated it like a destination worth preparing for, like a journey you don't start packing for on the day of departure, not because they were perfect, but because they understood something we often forget. Access to sacred time is not guaranteed, and benefit from it is even rarer. You can reach Ramadan and still miss it. Physically present, spiritually absent, fasting with the body while the heart remains untouched. They didn't assume they would be ready just because the month arrived. They asked Allah to let them reach it, and then asked again to let them benefit from it. Because presence is a gift, and transformation is an even rarer one. That's why preparation was never about pressure, it was about designing their environment. Not doing more, but removing friction, making prayer easier to start so it doesn't require internal debate every time. Making Quran easier to reach so it's not buried under noise and excuses. Making sin harder to access so the path to it is no longer automatic. Making Allah easier to remember so remembrance becomes default, not effort. Not dramatic changes, not personality overhauls, not spiritual fantasies, structural ones. Changes that reshape the flow of daily life, so the soul doesn't have to fight the system it lives inside. One alarm instead of 5 snoozes, so the day begins with presence, not resistance. One less app that steals your nights, so silence has space to exist again. One relationship you stop feeding with negativity, so your emotional energy stops leaking. One habit that no longer deserves your energy, not because it's sinful, but because it's hollow. This is not self-improvement, this is self-alignment. Not becoming someone new, but removing what you've added that isn't really you. Not adding discipline on top of chaos, but reducing chaos so discipline can breathe. Because the real preparation for Ramadan is not about becoming stronger, it's about becoming less divided. You are not trying to become someone new in Ramadan. You are trying to stop being divided. Divided between what you believe and how you actually live. Between what you say matters and what your calendar reveals. Between the values you defend with words and the habits you defend with excuses. Because division is exhausting, not physically, psychologically. It takes energy to live 2 lives at once, one public, one private, one spiritual, one habitual, one aspirational, one automatic. And Ramadan exposes that split, because for the first time, you are forced to slow down enough to notice the gap between who you are and who you keep claiming to be. That's why the heaviest thing in Ramadan is not hunger, it's inner resistance. The resistance of a soul
that wants one direction while the body keeps moving in another. The resistance of trying to worship deeply while your lifestyle keeps pulling you shallow. When your life is built in the opposite direction of your values, worship feels like pressure, like you're swimming upstream against your own system. Every prayer feels like effort. Every fast feels like control. Every act of remembrance feels forced. But when your life supports your values, worship feels like relief, like finally exhaling, like alignment instead of struggle, like your actions are no longer fighting your beliefs. That's the real preparation. Not quantity, not perfection, but direction. Not how much you do, but where your life is actually pointing. So when Ramadan arrives, it won't feel like a sudden spiritual emergency, a month of panic, guilt, and catch-up. It will feel like continuity, like stepping into a rhythm your soul already recognizes. Not a shock to your system, but a deepening of it. And that's the difference between a Ramadan that passes through you and a Ramadan that rebuilds you. One gives you memories. The other gives you a new internal structure. One ends when the moon is sighted again. The other quietly changes how you live the rest of the year. Ramadan will come either way. Time will move. The month will pass. The only question is, will it interrupt your life or confirm the person you were already becoming?